Good afternoon, everyone. We'll wait just a few more seconds before we get started. Okay, good afternoon. We want to start with just a few logistics before we get into the presentation. This webinar will be recorded. Please be sure your microphone is muted. Throughout the presentation, you may have questions, and you can type those in the Q&A option at the bottom of the screen. Slides and the recording from this meeting will be posted on the funding opportunity page, and that link is being provided for you in the chat. To access the caption service, click on the CC icon at the bottom of your screen. Welcome to the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, also known as WIC, Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center, FY24 RFA Technical Assistance Webinar. My name is Corinthia Cherry, and I am a National Program Leader in the Division of Nutrition within the Institute of Food and Agriculture at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or NIFA for short, at the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA for short. I'll be presenting today with my colleague, Julie Sklomowski, who is a Senior Technical Advisor in the Office of Innovation in the Supplemental Nutrition and Safety Programs at the Food and Nutrition Service, or FNS, also at USDA. Before we get started today, here is our non-discrimination statement. In accordance with federal civil rights law and USDA civil rights regulations and policies, the USDA, its agencies, offices, and employees, and institutions participating in or administering USDA programs are prohibited from discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity, including gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, age, marital status, family or parental status, income derived from a public assistance program, political beliefs, reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity, in any program or activity conducted or funded by USDA. Remedies and complaint filing deadlines vary by program or incident. Please note that the slide contains contact information for individuals with disabilities to request reasonable accommodations. Language access services will be provided to limited English proficient individuals upon request. And anyone wishing to file a complaint can utilize the phone number, fax number, or postal mailing address listed on the slide. And that link is provided for you in the chat as well. I would also like to start with introducing the WIC Workforce Initiative team. The team is comprised of individuals from 2 USDA agencies. From NIFA, we have Suzanne Salutka, Shushan, Steve Zing, Sheila Flashhiker, myself, Corinthia Cherry, Jamalis Ocasio, and Shakiva Shepard. From FNS, we have Amy Herring, Julie Sklomowski, Ebony James, and Laren Baker. During today's webinar, we will cover the following topics. First, we will provide an overview of NIFA, and Julie will provide an overview of the WIC modernization efforts. Then we will provide an overview of the Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center program, details for the RFA, program evaluation process, and additional resources. NIFA overview. So what is NIFA? We are the lead federal agency that provides extramural funding for food and agricultural sciences. We were created through the Food Conservation and Energy Act of 2008, and we invest in and support initiatives that ensure the long-term viability of agriculture. In addition, NIFA provides funding and strategic leadership for programs that ensure groundbreaking discoveries in agriculture-related sciences and technologies. Here are a list of the topics covered by all the NIFA programs. This WIC Workforce Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center falls under the Food and Nutrition Security topic. Now I will pass the presentation to Julie, who will provide an overview of the WIC modernization efforts.
Thank you, Corinthia. I'm here to cover the Food and Nutrition Services role in the WIC Workforce Joint Agency Initiative, including how it fits into USDA's overall WIC modernization efforts. WIC's official name is the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children, although the program is widely known as WIC. This multi-year WIC Workforce project will invest in research, education, and extension to address issues in the WIC workforce, with the ultimate goal of improving the WIC participant experience. Before I talk about our modernization efforts, I want to provide a bit of background on WIC as a program. Congress established WIC 50 years ago. The USDA Food and Nutrition Service administers WIC federally under agreement with 89 state agencies, including the District of Columbia, 33 Indian tribal organizations, and 5 US territories. Certain features of WIC are managed at the state agency level, such as WIC applications, the WIC Management Information System, and the approved shopping list. State agencies enter into agreements with a variety of organizations to provide services locally, including but not limited to local health departments, hospitals and other healthcare organizations, public health organizations, nonprofits, and the Indian Health Service. WIC provides healthy foods, nutrition education, breastfeeding, promotion and support, and healthcare and social service referrals to women, infants, and children under 5. WIC staff may refer families to medical or dental care, mental health services, or community-based support for other challenges they may be facing. Although the WIC foods are the most commonly associated WIC benefit, this entire set of benefits together makes WIC the effective public health nutrition program that it is. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, or ARPA, provided FNS with $390 million to carry out WIC outreach, innovation, and program modernization. Our overall WIC modernization goal is to increase WIC enrollment and participation. FNS conducted more than 30 listening sessions with folks who work with WIC or may be affected by WIC from around the country. FNS then used this input, along with research gathered from the U.S. Digital Service, to establish a goal-driven investment framework to increase WIC participation and improve equity in program delivery. Our overall WIC modernization goals focus on enrolling all eligible families, making WIC attractive so that families stay on the entire time they're eligible, making shopping simple and convenient so that families can use all their benefits, and making WIC equitable and accessible for all. WIC is a critical public health program that supports some of our most vulnerable community members at critical life stages. Studies have shown for decades that WIC improves the health of participating women, infants, and children. However, WIC is only reaching about half of those who are eligible for the program. We've invested portions of the $390 million provided by Congress across 4 key priority areas. These include outreach, modernizing technology and service delivery, improving the shopping experience, and supporting the workforce. We have invested over $200 million directly into grants to states to support these goals. The rest of the funding is being used for federally run projects like this workforce initiative. Modernizing the program will make WIC easier to access, more useful to families, and more relevant to the cultural and lifestyle needs of families today. We believe these are critical factors that need to be addressed to improve enrollment and retention. Supporting and developing the WIC workforce is essential to our modernization efforts. Those that attended listening sessions voiced support for workforce development initiatives, including developing educational and career pipelines for WIC staff, providing resources and training to improve cultural competency, and strategically addressing concerns around staff retention. The University of Minnesota, under a prior cooperative agreement as part of this initiative, helped us with a very important first step. The University of Minnesota team developed the National WIC Workforce Strategy with input from WIC state and local agency staff to inform how best to invest the remaining available funds to respond to the concerns that the current WIC workforce shared and to meet their needs. 2 RFAs have been released to directly support implementation of the National WIC Workforce Strategy. The WIC Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center RFA, which we're talking about today, and the WIC Workforce Implementation Projects RFA. We have a webinar scheduled tomorrow for that RFA. Outcomes from this work will serve as a workforce model for the broader nutrition education workforce at local, state agency, and federal levels. Nutrition service professionals working in WIC are deeply committed to the work that they do. In the WIC clinic, competent professional authorities, known as CPAs, conduct nutrition risk assessments and prescribe WIC food benefits. They also provide nutrition education, breastfeeding promotion and support, and make referrals to other health and social services. We understand that state agencies most commonly hire registered dietitians and master's level nutritionists as CPAs, followed by bachelor's level nutritionists and registered nurses. We're interested in better understanding the current landscape of WIC staffing models and exploring opportunities to address our WIC workforce challenges while continuing to deliver high-quality nutrition services. Paraprofessional peer counselors are currently employed in many WIC clinics to support breastfeeding. Nutrition paraprofessionals are also currently employed in some WIC clinics. We're interested in better understanding current nutrition paraprofessional models and how they can be applied more broadly. Defining staff qualifications along with roles and responsibilities will help us to ensure that participants receive quality services, which in turn will impact WIC participant recruitment and retention. WIC professionals provide nutrition services both in person and virtually. Providing nutrition services virtually is a newer feature of WIC, so training is needed to support WIC staff as they build skills and competence to deliver the same high-quality nutrition services in a different environment. WIC staff participate in continuing education both in person and virtually. Training may be offered at the state and local level. Training materials and models must meet the needs of WIC staff and fit into their day-to-day responsibilities. Developing and strengthening the WIC workforce is key to the success of our WIC modernization work. For decades, WIC clinics have strived to meet the comprehensive set of needs of their service communities while providing culturally responsive care. During listening sessions, stakeholders conveyed that increasing diversity and cultural competency in the WIC workforce could potentially increase WIC participation and retention, particularly among historically underrepresented communities. To provide culturally competent care, WIC nutrition professionals that complete nutrition assessments, prescribe food packages, and provide nutrition counseling and education must understand the cultural food preferences of the family they serve. Recruiting, training, and retaining a WIC workforce that is representative of the WIC population will help maximize WIC's full potential to support healthy pregnancies, growth and development of infants and children, and postpartum recovery. The recommendations outlined in the WIC Workforce National Strategy and the priorities outlined in these RFAs will help us achieve our goals. Thank you for considering this opportunity to help us invest in and support the WIC workforce. More information on our WIC modernization efforts is available on the USDA Food and Nutrition Service website. Our URL is on the slide. Okay, Cynthia, I'm going to pass back to you.
Thank you, Julie. So before we dive into the program overview, I would like to remind everyone that all interested applicants should read the RFA. This webinar shares the core information in the RFA, but there is no substitute for the RFA itself. The RFA should be considered the primary reference document for this funding opportunity. An applicant should ensure they have carefully read the RFA before beginning an application. With that established, let's begin with a quick look into the WIC Workforce Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center program. Before we go into the details regarding the RFA, I need to discuss the foundation that the center will be built upon. As you heard from Julie earlier, that foundation is the National WIC Workforce Strategy. The entire WIC Workforce Initiative is a part of a joint agency effort between FNS and NIFA that is expected to cultivate comprehensive and sustained solutions for WIC workforce development and support. The initiative aims to strengthen the diversity and cultural competency and address barriers to recruitment and retention of the WIC workforce, with the ultimate goals of increasing: 1, WIC participation through reaching those populations that are eligible but not enrolled, and 2, WIC participants' use of benefits and services, including those that Julie highlighted: nutrition education and breastfeeding support. The WIC Workforce Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center that we are focusing on in today's webinar is one of those first funding opportunities resulting from the national strategy. Again, links to the strategy have been provided for you earlier in the chat. So you heard Julie talk about this a little bit, but it's going to be important, and we're going to repeat some of these things this afternoon. The National WIC Workforce Strategy is the result of a cooperative agreement between USDA, FNS, and NIFA, and the University of Minnesota Extension. Their goal was to identify evidence-based strategies to inform the design of a 5-year plan to strengthen the WIC workforce. The strategy highlights key needs across objectives that will result in a WIC program that is innovative in meeting the changing needs of families, a supported WIC workforce, the ability to hire and retain the best talent, improved reach to populations that are eligible, but again, are not yet enrolled, and enhanced likelihood that WIC participants adopt nutrition education and breastfeeding support recommendations. Please be mindful that the National WIC Workforce Strategy should be considered a key resource when developing your proposals. So what is the purpose and priorities of the WIC Workforce Eval and Technical Assistance Center? I'm just going to highlight a few things on the slide here for you. The Eval and Technical Assistance Center will develop an evaluation strategy, again, that's based on that National WIC Workforce Strategy, and it needs to be specific to the implementation projects. So another critical note that I want to share here with you is about the implementation projects proposal. The implementation projects RFA was released at the same time as this evaluation and technical assistance RFA. And these two opportunities are intricately linked. The Eval and Technical Assistance Center will provide support to each implementation projects. And they are encouraged, all of you today who are here and interested in the Eval and Technical Assistance RFA are encouraged to read and review the implementation projects RFA as well. Other key priorities are to ensure that the evaluation strategy aligns with the ARPA goals. Also, assisting each implementation project with the development of a project-specific evaluation plan. ensuring rigorous and consistent evaluation and reporting across all implementation projects. Again, please refer to that WIC Workforce Implementation Project, RFA, as well. Other priorities are including the training and technical assistance and evaluation oversight, supporting the development and implementation of each implementation project's management and outreach plan, also ensuring that engagement and outreach plan incorporates activities such as traditional ecological knowledge. The implementation project's RFA was placed in the chat for you earlier. So let's talk a little bit about who's eligible. Applicants for the WIC Workforce Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center must meet all the requirements discussed in the RFA. Failure to meet the eligibility criteria by the application deadline may result in exclusion from consideration or preclude NIFA from making an award. For those who are new to federal assistance, the NIFA grants overview provides highly recommended information about grants and other resources to help understand the federal awards process. Eligible institutions include state agriculture experiment stations, colleges and universities, university research foundations, other research organizations or institutions, nonprofit organizations. They also include the organizations listed on the slide that is coming up next. And it can include as well any group consisting of 2 or more entities mentioned on these slides. It is also important to know that eligible institutions do not include foreign or international organizations. So what are just some grant basics that we want to highlight for you? Important things that you need to remember. The program code. And again, all of this information is provided in the RFA. The program code is WETAC. The code name is the WIC Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center. The grant type is a cooperative agreement, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Grant duration, 60 months, and we anticipate awarding 1 award. The maximum award amount is $10 million. And this award must design and carry out an overarching evaluation of the work carried out by the WIC Workforce Implementation Project grantees. So providing a little bit more detail about this program area, again, it must align with the National WIC Workforce Strategy. The center will provide services related to technical assistance, evaluation, and informational support services to the implementation projects. The center will again work with each workforce implementation project grantee to develop an evaluation and reporting plan metrics. The center must also establish an evaluation strategy to support data collection, evaluation, and reporting within and across the implementation projects. And the evaluation plan will include and must include an assessment of the impact of all recommendations and strategies implemented based on the National WIC Workforce Strategy. Just talking a little bit about what that technical assistance looks like. Technical assistance is encouraged to include the following components, but it is not limited to these approaches. Supporting each implementation project grantee in developing, again, their project-specific evaluation plan, providing guidance to each of the implementation project grantees on protections for human subjects and the proposed protections from research risk relating to their participation, which includes working with tribal communities. and providing guidance to each of the implementation project grantees on intellectual property protections, or TEK, traditional ecological knowledge. It should also be noted that a special requirement is highlighted in the RFA and should be addressed in the proposal. The WIC Evaluation and Technical Assistance Center must also establish and oversee a national WIC Workforce Advisory Work Group to help inform components throughout the entire period of performance. The charge, composition, and key components related to the National WIC Workforce Advisory Group is detailed in the RFA. Administrative requirements. In this section, I will provide an overview of the administrative requirements of the RFA, such as award type, pre-award requirements, indirect cost recovery, budget, and budget justification. The determination of award type is based on principal purpose. In this case, the principal purpose is to support or stimulate recipient activity, and to do so with substantial programmatic involvement by the federal agency beyond normal monitoring responsibilities. So the award will be made as a cooperative agreement. This means that FNS and NIFA will be substantially involved in carrying out the project, and specific terms and conditions of NIFA's involvement may be applied. Some examples of substantial involvement may include additional check-in meetings, additional and regular check-in meetings, the sharing of data, or development of reports. Applicants must submit specific management information relating to their entity prior to an award and update the information as needed. Example documents to verify financial and internal controls may include single audit, audited financial reports or certified year-end balance sheets and income statements, documentation of policy on salary compensation, or listing of previous federal grants. This funding opportunity allows for the full recovery of indirect costs, or IDC, based on your current negotiated rate established by your cognizant federal agency. For more information on direct costs, please refer to the link that has been provided to you in the chat. Applicants are required to provide information about their budgets. Applicants must submit a budget justification to provide the details about the costs associated with the project. All grant costs must be reasonable, allocable, and necessary. They must be reasonable, meaning they must fall within the scope of allowable costs, and a prudent person in similar circumstances would incur the costs at the same proposed rate. Costs must be allocable. This means they must be directly related to the specific grant activities and contribute to grant objectives. And finally, they must be necessary. These costs must be essential to accomplishing the grant objectives. There is no match required for this funding opportunity. Matching resources will not be factored into the review process as evaluation criteria. Application details and documents. Please make note of the application deadline date, time, and the maximum award amount for this funding opportunity. There is no NIFA restriction on proposals per institution. However, you should check with your individual institution. NIFA also does not allow duplicate submissions, and I'll discuss that more in just a second. For your application submission, these are key reminders. NIFA only accepts electronic submission of applications. The NIFA Grants Guideline application guide is available through grants.gov. A SAM Unique Entity Identifier, or UEI, is now required in place of a DUNS number. Please remember that all application documents must be in a portable document format, or PDF format, to be accepted by NIFA. This includes your narrative and your budget justification. Grants.gov may allow other formats, but NIFA does not. And please do not use third-party PDF builders. So back to the duplicate or multiple submissions. The duplicate or multiple submissions instruction refers to submitting the same application to multiple programs or requests for applications. This is not allowed by NIFA. So if the application you plan to submit to this request for applications is the same that you have submitted or will submit to another program, the last submission will be disqualified. Institutions are allowed to submit multiple times the same applications in a special case, such as if there was a missed document in the first submission. Take into consideration that NIFA will consider for screening only the last version that was submitted on time. And again, be sure to include all documents in PDF in that last version. An institution or PI is allowed to submit multiple completely different applications to the same program or request for application. This includes having a different project summary or project narrative, especially those objectives, and all other required supporting documents should reflect the different application. More project details or application details. You must include your project summary, also known as abstract. The project narrative has a 15-page limit, and this will be strictly enforced. Please refer to the RFA for all other requirements, including the spacing, the font and font size for figures. You must also include your introduction, your project goals and intended outcomes, personnel, organizations, and resources involved. You must include an approach, and this should include a timeline, cooperation and institutional involvement. A logic model is required, and so is the data management plan. And we'll talk just a little bit about that in a minute here. So the data management plan is required for this program. Investigators must provide a detailed, but up to 2 pages DMP, including expected data type, data format, data storage and preservation, data sharing, protections and public access, and roles and responsibilities. You can also review the data management plan for NIFA funded projects for more information. And that link was just provided for you in the chat. Other key documents listed here include your SF 424, the project performance site and locations. All of this information is found in the NIFA Grants Application Guide. That is a part of the application package for this RFA. If there is a discrepancy between the two documents, between the application guide and the RFA overrides the application guide. Remember, the RFA is your primary resource. Applicants that do not meet the application requirements to include partial applications risk being excluded from NIFA's review. Applicants must refer to your proposal number when corresponding with NIFA. All the documents, again, of your application and all of those listed here must be in the PDF format. Proposal evaluation process. The initial screening criteria. To avoid any misunderstandings, applicants should be aware that applications that do not satisfy all the screening criteria are at risk of being returned without review. Return applications may not be resubmitted with or without revision under this solicitation. The initial screening criteria are the following. The applicant must be an eligible entity. The application must meet the application content and format requirements. This includes page length requirements and all files being in a PDF. The application must include a data management plan and a logic model. So more information on this evaluation criteria. And again, all of this is completely spelled out in the RFA, but I'm going to highlight these each individually today. Relevancy. The proposed work will have an impact on the joint agency initiative to strengthen the diversity and cultural competency and address barriers to recruitment and retention of the WIC workforce. The models and strategies will improve the WIC workforce. The model and strategies proposed will improve the WIC workforce consistent with the strategy. The second evaluation criteria is technical merit. Activities, objectives, outcomes, and potential impacts are clear and achievable within the project period. You must also describe qualifications of your project team, partners, and collaborators, and also include your project management plan and a data management plan. Please refer to the RFA for all these details. Next, we'll talk about the peer review process. And you should note here that the peer review process, this same process applies to all NIFA funding opportunities. Proposals are assigned to reviewers with expertise in the proposed topic. Then the reviewers will produce individual reviews, which will be used for panel discussion. Through the discussion, peer review panelists come to a consensus on the final ranking of the proposals. We ask that you please review the evaluation criteria that we just discussed in the RFA for additional information. Common mistakes to avoid. Make sure that you meet the formatting requirements. Again, there's a strict page limit and all of your documents must be in PDF format. Make sure to include all parts in the project narrative, including your introduction, your project goals and intended outcomes, your approach that must include a timeline. Make sure you have your logic model and your data management plan. Also, make sure that you review that your budget is within the maximum award amount. And please be attentive to the due date. Late submissions represent an automatic decline. The project budget request, if there's a, the project budget receives if your project budget request exceeds the maximum allowable award amount, it will also be disqualified. And the final area is resources and contact information. Most of these resources have already been provided to you in the chat, but we have a few more that we're going to provide for you. These resources can help you create a successful application and provides more detail about many of the topics we discussed today. Please note that all of the resources that NIFA provides, the RFA is the most important and should be considered the primary authority on this funding opportunity. If you have any questions that we haven't asked today or you haven't already provided for us in the Q&A, please reach out via email listed here to myself, Corinthia Cherry, and Yamilis Ocasio. And this email box is being monitored, so please provide any questions that you have to this email box. And now we'll take any questions that you might have. Did I miss any questions in the chat? Let's see here. So I think we have two questions here that are coming in. And one of them is related to the role of Mathematica in terms of this RFA and eval and technical assistance center. And I'm going to start answering this question, and Julie and Ebony might ask you to come off mute to support. So Mathematica, you heard about the ARPA funds that are supporting these projects. Mathematica is the evaluator for the overall WIC modernization or ARPA projects. So the individuals that is awarded this cooperative agreement must cooperate with Mathematica to support the overall evaluation of all the projects. So I think that question came up twice, so I think we solved that one. Anything that you might add, Julie or Ebony, to that response related to Mathematica? But Mathematica is the overall ARPA WIC modernization evaluator.
Yeah, I can just add the size and scope of our overall WIC modernization portfolio is pretty unique and unprecedented for us. So we have $390 million, as I mentioned, and so that is being invested in a wide variety of projects working towards all of the same ARPA WIC modernization goals. So Mathematica is under contract with FNS to do an overall WIC modernization evaluation where they will be looking at how all of these efforts that we're funding are working towards our goals. So there is some additional language in the RFA, and Corinthia mentioned it's important to read the RFA several times. So just do want to highlight that the awardee of this RFA will be evaluating the WIC workforce efforts, but we've built in some expectations just to make sure upfront that there is coordination with Mathematica so that this evaluation will feed directly into the overall evaluation so that there's the ability for this to inform the overall WIC modernization evaluation.
Any other questions that we may have missed? Or if you feel the need to put them in the chat, if you don't have additional questions right now, I'm not seeing any other additional ones. I'll ask the team to help me here monitor the Q&A. Please.
There is one in the Q&A from Jackie Jacobs. Are there any other evaluation and technical assistance centers under these larger modernization?
So, Julie.
This is the only evaluation and technical assistance center for our workforce priority area. So each of the other WIC modernization priority areas does have different funded partners and different goals supporting outreach, shopping, modernizing technology and service delivery, et cetera. So each of those projects is set up, or portfolios are set up a little bit differently, but I did share a link to our website where you can read more about those other WIC modernization priority areas. But this is the only evaluation technical assistance center for our workforce initiative.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing no other questions right now, if anything comes up as you're preparing your proposals, again, please feel free to reach out to us via that email box and we can provide any support in terms of questions that may not have been answered today. We look forward to receiving applications for this proposal, and you are also encouraged to attend tomorrow's session, which will be focused on the implementation projects RFA opportunity, and that will be tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So please register for that if you are interested and if you haven't registered for that already. But thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and I'll see some of you tomorrow. Have a great day.